family members.
I'm not hugging anybody for 10 years. I'm just.
I am going to I'm going to squeeze my grandkids.
You got grandbabies.
I'm going to squeeze my grandbabies.
Yes.
See the live button.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Long. Always on point.
All
Hey,
right,
Commissioner
Chair
Carter.
Howerton. Oh, I'm sorry. Chair Howerton, County Commissioners, County Manager, Attorney, and staff, it is 7:02. We are live on YouTube and we can start our meeting.
Thank you, Monica. And good evening, everyone. I will read the public charge. The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. As a courtesy to others, please turn off cell phones during the meeting. If you will join me in our Pledge of Allegiance today is February 22nd, 2021, the Board of County Commissioners meeting. And if you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, at this time, are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to announcements. Our clerk, Monica Toomer, will now read the announcements.
Good evening, Commissioners. I will begin our announcements for the February 22nd meeting. Durham Immigrant and Refugee Virtual Town Hall, Coronavirus, Vaccines, and Beyond. Durham elected officials and community organizations join Durham residents in its second trilingual English, Spanish, and Arabic Town Hall on Tuesday, February 23rd from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. To attend in English, you can visit www.durhamnc.gov/townhall-English. To attend in Spanish, www.durhamnc.gov/townhall-Spanish. And to attend in Arabic, www.durhamnc.gov/townhall-Arabic. The 2021 Healthcare Marketplace reopened. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a special enrollment period has been extended to individuals and families seeking coverage in the Affordable Care Act ACA Marketplace. Eligible individuals have until May 15th, 2021 to find a health insurance plan that works for them. For additional information and to apply, please visit www.healthcare.gov. Step Up Durham. Durham Technical Community College is offering a number of courses to help students get opportunities for immediate employment in high-demand occupations. Career fields include biotechnology, information technology, health and wellness, skilled trades, and more. To learn more and to apply, please visit www.durhamtech.edu/academic-programs. Durham County Public Health Data Dashboard. The Durham County Public Health Department has created a dashboard dedicated to COVID-19 vaccine data. The dashboard reflects information as of January 27th, 2021, and includes the number of vaccines received and the demographics of those who have been vaccinated, along with additional information. Please visit www.dcopublichealth.org/COVID-19 vaccines to find out more. Durham Public Schools Spring 2021 Learning Preference Form. DPS is planning for in-person learning in response to Senate Bill 37, which requires all school districts to offer in-person learning in addition to a virtual option. Families are asked to select their preference by taking the survey. Please visit www.dpsnc.net to read additional information and submit your preference. The Durham Youth Listening Project. The Durham Listening Project report was created by the Office on Youth to create a space for young voices in local government. This report includes a summary, participant demographics, background process, and recommendations. Please visit www.durhamnc.gov/youthspeaks or Twitter and Instagram at #YouthSpeakDurm. That concludes our announcements. This information will also be available on our county website.
Thank you, Ms. Toomer. Monica does such a great job. I'm so pleased that you're doing this right now. So thank you, yes. Board members, are there any additional announcements to add? If none, we'll move on to our minutes. We have our January 2nd work session minutes for approval. Are there any corrections, any comments on the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the minutes.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second, and I just want to say to Tanya, great job on the very detailed, excellent minutes.
Okay, thank you. We've had a motion by Commissioner Lum, second by Commissioner Jacobs. And if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Alam,
Yes, I was muted. Sorry.
There's you.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
and Chair Howerton.
Thank you. Passes 5-0. The next item, Commissioners, is a ceremonial item, and I'm going to lend to Commissioner Alam if she will take over with the resolution.
Thank you, Chair Howerton. I want to thank all of my commissioners for coming together with me to allow this resolution onto our agenda, honoring Dia Yasser and Razan, who we lost 6 years ago in the Chapel Hill shooting in their apartment in Durham County to an Islamophobic hate crime. And unfortunately, North Carolina doesn't have hate crime prevention laws. So these types of resolutions by local governments, like we had passed in 2018 by the town of Chapel Hill, and Congressman David Price submitted a congressional record to the Congressional Library in their honor, really goes to break that stigma and that implicit bias that exists in the world that leads to this type of hate crimes that took Dia Yasser and Razan away from us. And as all of you know, they were very near and dear to my heart and were a great reason for me to get politically involved and to run for office. And to be able to honor them here today with Faris, Dia's brother, is really truly humbling. So I really greatly appreciate the people of Durham and my fellow commissioners for allowing this. I want to introduce Faris Barakat, the brother of Dia Barakat. He's going to be reading the resolution for us tonight.
Good evening, everybody. This is Faris Barakat, brother of Dia Barakat. The resolution reads as follows. The Durham Board of County Commissioners honors the legacy of Dia Yusur Razan, whereas Dia Barakat, Yusur Abu Salha, and Razan Abu Salha were young students in pursuit of their educational endeavors when their lives were tragically cut short by an Islamophobic hate crime in early 2015. And whereas these productive individuals preparing themselves to work in the areas of dentistry, biological sciences, and architecture at 2 area universities have become highly regarded for their generous work in the region, sharing services to assist the homeless by providing food and dental supplies. And whereas they unselfishly work to tackle many of the challenges facing our regional community by giving of themselves to address critical issues and to inspire others to take up the mantle and do the same for the least of those amongst us. And whereas it is evident from their actions that Dia Yusur Razan completely embraced the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You only need a heart full of grace." And whereas the R3 Winners Foundation was created to honor the legacy of Dia Yusur Razan with a core mission to mitigate explicit biases and to end hate crimes against all communities. And whereas the Lighthouse Project was created to carry on the dream of Dia Barakat to one day have a unified and structured community and support the youth with their projects. I think Brenda Howerton needs to read the next part.
Okay. So now, therefore, I, Brenda Howerton, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby resolve to honor the memory of the, you'll have to help me with the names.
Dia Yusur and Razan.
Thank you. For their unwavering dedication to using their skills and resources to serve mankind, both here and abroad. We urge all Durham community members to reflect on their profound legacy of service and to model their efforts daily. This is the 22nd day of February, 2021. Brenda A. Howerton, Chair, Wendy Jacobs, Vice Chair, Nana Alum, Commissioner, and I just went blank. Namashina Burns,
Me and
Commissioner Heidi Carter. I got it. It took me a minute. Commissioner. Are there any comments from any of the commissioners at this point?
I believe Faris was going to speak for a few moments, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I just want to thank everybody here to have kind of taken this step, especially here at the local level. As Commissioner just said, it's been done in Congress, but to have it in the county in which the court really just took place, I feel like just a year ago, and where we found that, Craig Hicks admitted to police he got angry, but he said my brother cursed him out. And you find in the video evidence in the case that we weren't able to talk about till the evidence that no such thing happened. And it's that difference. And it's that little bit of a truth that you kind of can find the real story. And Nida being on this board and being able to run and take things to the next level is the type of voice and person we need to continue the narrative and to be able to distinguish the little bit of nuance between, was this a parking dispute or something much more than that? Was it motivated by hate? And hopefully in furtherance of protecting and making safe Durham County for the rest of its citizens, we reflect on this and we, for now and forever, commit to light over darkness and love over hate.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Commissioners, comments from you? Commissioner Burns?
Be very quick. I think for a lot of people who are not familiar with this case, people often say this happened in Chapel Hill. It wouldn't matter where it happened at. They don't think about it as being something that happened in the county. And I just appreciate Commissioner Long for highlighting that, because people do need to understand that in what is considered the quote unquote bluest county, that hate crimes do occur. And multiple hate crimes occurred against those three before the death. Hate crime, you don't have to die for a hate crime to occur. So I'm happy that Commissioner Long put this forward. It makes me feel good that each commissioner recognizes that these things do occur here and we have to do work on them. Fairness to you, there's some of us on this board who have lost family members to a hate crime. It does not leave you. It absolutely does not leave you. Your family is in my prayers, and I look forward to seeing how we can support you all throughout this and how we can make sure that this does not happen again in Durham County. So I just thank you for coming on today, and I appreciate you.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Just want to echo Commissioner Burns' comments, and that this was very close to Durham County. It was actually perpetrated by a spouse of a Durham County employee. So it was really impacted us in a very personal way. But I just want to thank you for being with us, Ferris, and it's really an honor to have you here for this proclamation and this resolution. And Commissioner Alam, to have you, the person who originated it, to have you presenting it to our board tonight. And I look forward to this being something that is a part of what we do and honoring the legacy of, Dia and Yusor and Razan, and, just keeping their lives and everything that they represent for all of us, keeping that alive and that what we all do. So thank you.
Commissioner Carter?
Thank you. Commissioner Lom, thanks for bringing this forward. It really is an honor to have a small piece in passing this resolution and taking a stand against hate crimes. And I want to thank Mr. Barakat also for being with us tonight. And it was especially meaningful to have you here reading the resolution. Nida impressed me right off the bat when we were campaigning, when she mentioned that this event in her life really triggered her to run for elected office. It's clear to me that she has grace in her heart in the same way that her friends Dia, Yusor, and Razan did. Thanks you for bringing this forward, Nida. We're lucky to have you with us.
Commissioner Alam?
I just want to add one more thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the other reasons I felt it was very important for us to have this resolution is because, as all of you on this call know, but all Durham County residents may not know, was when this hate crime initially happened, originally what the narrative was that it was committed over a parking dispute. And that is immediately what the Chapel Hill police chief had ran with, as well as all of the national media outlets. So it's important for us to recognize this for what it was, so that way we can address the issue of implicit biases and hate that exists for Muslims and all marginalized communities.
So I too want to add my thanks, Commissioner Alam, for you bringing this forward. And Barak, thank you so much for being here tonight and lifting up the names of your loved ones. One of the things that I know is that when your loved ones' names are called, it brings them alive for you and your family. So they're present in your lives. So I just say thank you. We honor you for being here tonight, and your family as well. Thank you. All right. If there are no other comments, we will move on. The second item is a proclamation on Black Entrepreneurship Week. The board is requested to proclaim February 22nd through the 26th of 2021 as Black Entrepreneurship Week by the officials of Carolina Small Business Development Foundation. And I will read the proclamation, and then we will have Kevin Dick is here on the line, and he will share some details about the week. So Durham Board of County Commissioners proclamation, Black Entrepreneurship Week 2021. Whereas Black Entrepreneurship Week initially developed from a partnership between Carolina Small Business Development Fund and Shaw University, Shaw Bears. Whereas Carolina Small Business Development Fund is a nonprofit community lender that promotes economic development through outreach to underserved communities. And whereas Black Entrepreneurship Week will bring together participants to focus on the future of small business leadership in the Black community and beyond. And whereas the virtual event will feature 5 days of inspiring speakers and engaging workshops with topics ranging from access to capital, marketing provoking in the face of the pandemic, stories of small businesses helped by CSBDF, that's an acronym, during the pandemic, and more. And whereas the goal of the event is to provide opportunities for trailblazing, successful business leaders to share their knowledge and creativity, and to provide strategic insights to a new generation of eager and innovative entrepreneurs. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Brenda Howerton, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim February 22nd through 26th as Black Entrepreneur Week, this 22nd day of February 2021. And we'll have Kevin Dick to take it from here.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners, County Manager Davis, County Attorney Seiler, General Manager Deborah Craig Ray. I'm Kevin Dick with the Carolina Small Business Development Fund. I know it sounds a bit funny to hear me stating my title with that particular organization and not something connected to Durham, but it is outstanding to be before you tonight and be before familiar faces. Carolina Small Business Development Fund is really thrilled to be hosting Black Entrepreneurship Week, but we're also thrilled to be a partner with Durham County on initiatives related to getting capital into the hands of small business that need it. As you all are aware, we manage the Durham Small Business Recovery Fund, which has been a partnership that was envisioned and then executed back in June of 2020 between the county, the city, and Duke University. And it's been really a fantastic program thus far. Over 170 businesses have been helped by that program, and actually a substantial amount of applications have been processed, but we have gotten funding into the hands of small businesses in Durham County, and it has helped them to survive the pandemic, and hopefully they'll be able to thrive on the other side of it. And we will be instituting technical assistance to help make that happen. But a little bit more about Black Entrepreneurship Week. This is about the fourth time that CSBDF, Madam Chair, that means Carolina Small Business Development Fund.
I figured you'd let us know what all that abbreviation, acronyms meant.
I wouldn't leave you just out there, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
So Carolina Small Business Development Fund, or CSBDF, has executed this event. This is, again, as I said, I believe our fourth time doing it. this is the first time I've had the honor to be at the helm of the organization in hosting the event. And what we've tried to do we've been intentional about an emphasis on Black-owned businesses, but certainly not an exclusion of others. But we've emphasized Black-owned businesses for two main reasons. Number one, we're in Black History Month. And this is in no particular order, but number one, we're in Black History Month. Number two, unfortunately, during the pandemic, there have been studies shown, specifically done at the University of California, Santa Cruz, that showed the rate of business closures by businesses owned by people of various races. The rate of business closures for white-owned businesses is 17%. That's pretty glaring. That's almost 1 in 5. The rate of business closures for Asian-owned businesses is 26%. For Hispanic-owned businesses, it's 32%. For Black-owned businesses, it's 41%. So that correlates to being nearly 2.5 times the rate of white-owned businesses. And so when you have disproportionate impacts of the pandemic on small businesses, it takes disproportionately great effort to try to offset some of how these businesses are being negatively impacted. And hence the reason for a 5-day event full of content and contacts, including 15 sessions, and Madam Chair referenced a few of the types of sessions we're doing. But I will define the why in terms of 4 I's. The why for why we're doing this event boiled down to inspiration, information, instruction, and introductions. Inspiration, information, instruction, and introductions. Let me elaborate, please. Inspiration is born by the fact that we are featuring an homage to the past. This morning, actually, the event started. We got off to a rousing start for this event. And we had, among other things, we had a panel this morning with Black-led financial institutions, including Carolina Small Business Development Fund, Mechanics and Farmers Bank, Piedmont Business Capital, and the UP Community Fund. These are various financial institutions throughout the state. My portion of that session was broadcast, if you will, live from the tower at Mutual Plaza, which we also know as the former North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Building. At one time, the largest Black-owned insurance company in the country, and perhaps a stronger symbol of Black entrepreneurship than any in the state. Within the space, I was within the space of Provident 1898, a co-working space co-owned by a person of color. We wanted to be very intentional and inspire Black-owned businesses about what has been possible in the past and what is possible right now and what can be possible in the future by them interacting with each other and learning from other businesses. So that speaks to inspiration. Also information. We've had moderators and panelists, subject matter experts in various aspects that impact Black-owned businesses and other businesses for that matter. Access to capital, sessions on certification, pre-qualification, being led by North Carolina Department of Transportation, as well as a panel from Black-led capacity building organizations that do technical assistance for Black-owned businesses. We're also hearing from former Carolina Small Business Development Fund borrowers and current recipients of funding, including one from the Durham County Fund, Nicole Oxendine of Empowered Dance Studio. They will be on panels that really, again, show what small businesses are doing to navigate the pandemic and how they may be inspiring and informational to others. We also wanted to emphasize instruction. We will be having Carolina Small Business Development Fund staff who are business coaches, actually doing instruction sessions with 2 hours devoted to businesses being able to ask questions in the chat and verbally about how they can improve their business operations and grow better. Finally, introductions. We've all heard the old adage that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And one of the things that we also know is that in addition to, unfortunately, a deficit of access to capital at times and a deficit of financial capital, businesses owned by people of color also suffer from a deficit of social capital. And that's one of the things we want to offset this week. We want to make sure that businesses have an opportunity to interact with each other as well as the moderators and panelists. And let me just give you a few examples of who some of these moderators are. Anita Brown Graham with NC Impact, Deborah Holt Noel with Black Issues Forum. And the list goes on. Many Carolina Small Business Development Fund board members, Jada Grandy Mock, the head of community and economic development for Fifth Third nationally, Ted Archer, an executive director with JP Morgan Chase. These are individuals that are going to be moderating panels and getting some of these small business owners together to really discuss how they're navigating the pandemic and how they intend to thrive. But what's also so great about this event is the platform we're using is very conducive to not only group sessions, but also individuals being able to sit at virtual tables and interact with each other, just as if they were at a networking conference. So we've chosen a platform that really lends itself to getting group instruction, but also having intimate conversation at the same time. And so we're really excited to put on the event. We've been absolutely thrilled by the support we've gotten. We have over 300 registrants so far, and registrations are continuing to grow. I know we had 57 between last night and this morning. And as I said, they're growing. And the beauty of it is you can log in and log out at your convenience. So even if you say, wow, you know, my week is packed, my schedule is filled to the brim with different meetings and so forth, you can log in, you can register and be able to log in and log out at your convenience and still get access to some really important content. So as I said, we're very excited to throw this event. We really appreciate the support of the county and really everything we're doing, not just tonight. So we thank you for the grace you have shown to Durham County small businesses and giving Carolina Small Business Development Fund the honor and privilege of managing a fund that is helping to strengthen Durham's economy and helping to sustain small businesses. And I can take any questions if anyone has them.
Well, Kevin, we are very, very pleased to have you with us, and we're pleased that of all the support that you're giving to our Black business owners and this community. When you talk about inspiration, information, I said you mentioned two others, but
Instruction and introductions.
Instruction and introduction. But I mean, I like those things that all of them start with I's.
That's right.
Interesting. But one of the things I didn't hear from you, if you would just say a little bit more about how individuals can contact, the contact information, phone number, email, that kind of thing, or where do they go to register?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I did leave that out, didn't I? carolinasmallbusiness.org, carolinasmallbusiness.org. You can register on our events page. It's very simple from that standpoint. And again, be able to access, I think, so we had 3 sessions today, so there are 12 remaining, so you can access anywhere between 1 and 12 sessions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Other questions or comments from other commissioners? Commissioner Jacobs and then Commissioner Burns. And then Commissioner.
I think Commissioner Burns had her hand up first, so she can go and then I'll go.
Okay, one of you go.
I said she could. I was pointing that she could go. Mine is quick. I just wanted to also congratulate Mr. Dick on being one of the community partners for the Retool NC program. I know that you all have had the fiduciary responsibility of getting some of those payments out to companies, even some in Durham, much like the Institute. So thank you for that service. I have heard great things. I think other folks have. I wanted to throw this in because there's nothing I could add to what Mr. Dick threw out. But since we're at this portion, I wanted to throw out for the community members who are listening. The Biden administration did announce today that they were opening back up PPP and starting on Wednesday for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it is open to individuals, to companies that have less than 20 employees. That is huge because the majority of our women-owned and minority businesses, especially here, have less than 20 employees. And that fund, I think right now with the additional funding that he had has $284 million added into it. So now, Black farmers, female farmers, sole proprietors, those who are independent. So I just wanted the community to know, that was a real big issue that we had last year, that so many small businesses were left out. So opening up Wednesday for 2 weeks, that application will open up, and I hope you all can take advantage of it, and you will be in a better position to do so because you will have the inspiration and the information and the introduction and I forget the other I, and the information, inspiration to go forth and take advantage of that opportunity. But that was all I wanted to throw in. But thank you.
Commissioner
Okay.
Burns, can you be on the panel? You're pretty impressive. I think you stole some.
I'm actually mad that I'm not on a panel, so we will talk about this afterwards.
I know, we've got some very impressive panelists. Okay. Commissioner Jacobs?
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that information, Commissioner Burns. Kevin, I think it's so important that you're doing this for the community. I really appreciate it, especially with those really staggering statistics about closures. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about, is that the rate that we're seeing here in Durham also? And with the two funds that you've been helping to manage, one is a grant fund and one is the loan fund. I didn't get a chance to read it. Andy sent an update, but just wondering, it's from what I've heard is people obviously are more interested in the grant funding, and that a lot of, I guess people are concerned, especially some of the loans are tied to even, salaries for employees and just concerns about ability to pay back. Just wondering what you see as still the need that's out there in the Durham community that's still unmet, especially related to grants. So if you could give us just a little snapshot of for us, because we're looking at, we're going into a budget retreat for the next day and a half, and that would really help us have a context for the kind of need that's out there in the community.
Commissioner Jacobs, I appreciate the questions. I unfortunately don't have a specific percentage of closures at the local level. I just don't know that information. We can research it and try to get back to you. What I do know is that the amount of, so first of all, the $1 million grant fund is completely exhausted. That happened, I believe, in January, very early January. So we do have about $1.1 million left in the loan fund. And I realize that there is a reticence for small businesses to take out loans. As far as, basically the financial statements are examined as financial statements, cash flow and so forth are examined in totality. I don't think that there's no specificity I'm aware of that is just about salaries. Salaries as they relate to the total operating expenses for a business are going to be evaluated. But here's what I'd say. As I said, I realize there's a reticence on the part of many small businesses to take out loans. But where I would commend the county commission and the city council is that you all have passed a loan product that probably doesn't exist anywhere. That's not a scientifically researched statement, but based upon what I know about this industry, a 3% loan with a 10-year repayment period with no personal guarantee nor collateral required is just unprecedented. And it's as close to free money as any small business could access. So what I would say, and we've even, I mean, some of the criteria, and community development financial institutions like ours have different lending criteria than commercial banks. There's still criteria, but they're generally more liberal. This particular loan product is even more liberal than our generally liberal criteria. So I mean, basically to get a loan, and I won't call out companies' names, but to get a loan that is unsecured, which this loan product is, with no collateral, generally you're paying at least 18% interest, at least. And generally it's a lot higher than that. What you all have brought forth to the community is a 3% product. So what I would urge small businesses to consider is that whereas grants may come available, Commissioner Burns alluded to the Retool NC program. Another round of Retool NC is in the governor's budget proposal. It has to be deliberated by the state legislature. And those would be for certified hub and certified DBE businesses. So that is a requisite there. They could become available. That is subject to a vote by the state legislature. But generally speaking, grants for small businesses are not commonplace. They don't happen very often. They've happened during COVID. As you all know, you all contributed to a CARES Act funded grant program to help businesses become safer. And that supplemented and sort of accompanied the Small Business Recovery Fund. But these are not, common occurrences. And so, my advice to small businesses and our advice really at Carolina Small Business Development Fund is to look at low cost capital as well as no cost capital. You have to look at both, because in order to stabilize yourselves and then have a 3% product that you don't have to pay back for 10 years, that is a way to stabilize the business and sort of ride out what the pandemic may have to offer, negative or negative, and however long the negativity lasts. And then, really have a low monthly repayment. The other thing I would say is that there clearly is demand. The demand just for the loan fund has exceeded the total loan fund. But that being said, there are still about 1.1 million available in the fund. So we estimate that there are probably 35 to 40 more opportunities available in Durham County for businesses. So we stand ready, willing, and able to accept those applications, process them as fast as we can, provided that all of the paperwork is in order, and get funding out to businesses. To date, we have approved $647,000 in loans to over 30 businesses. So we are, looking to expand that number.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lum, did you have your hand up?
Yes. I didn't necessarily, Mr. Dick, thank you so much for joining us. I didn't have a question. I had more so a comment. And thank you so much for coming and sharing this information with us, and also for organizing such an amazing event that really is vital for Durham as well as the entire Triangle region. I just wanted to add on the importance that, like you had mentioned, the statistics of businesses closing due to COVID and that ratio and how drastic that is. And I think, we also need to identify that this is something that we see drastically impacts Black business owners from a long history, especially here in Durham. We know the history of how the Hayti community and the thriving businesses there were destroyed by the freeway. They were promised an economic boom was going to come for them, and all of these amazing things were going to come, but nothing. They lost their homes, they lost their businesses. And we continue to talk about economic development and growth in Durham, but we really need to be focusing in on how are we making that economic growth available for Black businesses to really, like, to look at the 51 years ago, the freeway opened, and we're still dealing with the ramifications of that decision. So this is really great to see that there's a program that will help small businesses, owners here in Durham really thrive and start to create that economic boom that was promised a long time ago, that should have been given to them, but that they have that opportunity for it now.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, Kevin, thank you so much for being here, and please give the little one a hug for me.
I'll be happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Have a good evening.
You too. Our next item, the board is requested to adopt the resolution for the board for the this resolution is to be signed. It's the North Carolina Local Government Group comments to Duke Energy's 2020 Integrated Resource Plan. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Carter if you would read that one, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, for asking. Love to. Durham Board of County Commissioners resolution of the Durham Board of County Commissioners to submit public comments to the North Carolina Utilities Commission regarding Duke Energy's 2020 Integrated Resource Plan. Whereas Durham County has a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in operations by 50% from 2005 levels by 2030, and whereas the Board of Commissioners adopted a goal to work towards transitioning county operations to 80% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% renewable energy by 2050, while calling on Duke Energy and the North Carolina Utilities Commission to work with local governments to achieve these goals. And whereas electricity accounts for 48% of county operations' total energy use and 59% of county operations' greenhouse gas emissions. And whereas the electricity Durham County uses in operations is generated by Duke Energy, and whereas Duke Energy's 2020 Integrated Resource Plan, which outlines plans for electricity generation, transmission, and energy efficiency efforts for the next 15 years, is currently up for review before the North Carolina Utilities Commission. And whereas Durham County has the opportunity to join with other North Carolina local governments to communicate how the 2020 IRP can best support those goals while addressing equity and environmental justice issues. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Durham County Board of Commissioners that the chair or her designee signs on to the North Carolina Local Government Group comments to Duke Energy's 2020 Integrated Resource Plan, docket E100 sub 165, and direct staff to continue to work with other North Carolina local governments on this issue throughout the IRP process. This, the 22nd day of February 2021, with spaces for all of our signatures.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. And we have Tobin Freed, Sustainability Manager, to speak on this item.
Thank you very much to the chair and to Commissioner Carter for reading that so beautifully. Thank you for having me here today to speak on this and for your support. Durham County, as you know, has a long history of sustainability and climate action. As was stated in the resolution, we have greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals. We have renewable energy goals. We are making progress on those goals. Durham County operations have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 12% and in our community by 8% since 2009, even while the county and county operations have been growing very quickly during that time. We also are on the verge, hopefully, fingers crossed, of purchasing a large amount of solar energy to cover some of the electricity that we use in our operation. So we are making progress. But as we develop these plans to figure out how we're going to meet our goals, we realize that we can't do it alone. And as much as we invest in energy efficiency and we purchase solar energy and we put solar panels on our buildings and we electrify our fleet, there is still going to be some percentage of our electricity that we need to buy from the grid from Duke Energy. And we do buy all of our electricity from Duke Energy, and most of our residents do as well. So what they do, the decisions that they make, impacts our ability to meet our goals, and of course, more broadly, impacts our planet. The reason we have all these goals is to stop climate change from getting out of control and to make sure that we have a planet to live on and that our children and grandchildren can live as well. We've seen the impacts of climate change, certainly just this past week or so with the terrible snowstorms and things like that. So it is real and it is here and we have to act urgently. And so what Duke Energy does as the major electricity supplier in North Carolina really matters. So as was mentioned in the resolution, they have every 2 years submit an integrated resource plan, an IRP, to the Public Utilities Commission. And then there's a public process for that whereby stakeholders can have some say in what's being proposed. And so these plans not only impact renewable energy and greenhouse gas emissions, but they also impact people. The decisions they make will impact where pollution happens, what type of pollution, when it happens, how much energy costs, what that energy burden is for people, when they have to pay for it. It impacts jobs and economic development in areas, so around the whole state, whether it's clean energy jobs or whether it's jobs in power plants that close down, all of these impact people. And so we want to make sure that those are done in ways that are the most benefit and reduce the disproportionate impact on those who unfortunately traditionally do see the worst impacts from these decisions. So we want to avoid that. So as part of this process, for the first time ever, local governments from across the state are providing comments to the plan and through this letter. And in this letter, they encourage through the plan to retire coal plants at the earliest practicable time, to increase renewable energy in the system, to value energy efficiency, to consider strong adoption of electric vehicles, and to be more transparent about how they engage historically disadvantaged communities and include those recommendations from those communities. So far, 10 other local North Carolina governments from across the state have signed on to this letter, and tonight, the opportunity is before you to join them in this important action. Collectively, the signatories represent more than 1.4 million residents and over 18,000 gigawatts of electricity use per year, which is about 12% of Duke Energy's North Carolina sales. It's our belief and our hope that our collective voices will positively impact the energy mix, our environment, and environmental justice issues in North Carolina with the impacts felt beyond our state. So I appreciate your attention to this issue tonight and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tobin. Thank you for bringing this before us. In just a second, I'll ask commissioners if they have comments. I just want to, do we have to vote on this tonight?
You actually have it on your consent agenda. So
it's on the consent. Okay. All right. Commissioners, are there any comments regarding this item? Commissioner Carter?
Thank you. And thanks so much to Tobin and any other of your partners in the city or the county government who helped work on this letter that we're signing on to. I think it does a very good job of continuing to really want to support our partnership with Duke Energy, but pointing out the areas where we can improve, or we think that they can improve. We hope that they will improve with this IRP and their energy roadmap, basically for the future. We do hope it will include more renewable energy, that they'll bring more renewable energy to the grid, and they'll retire all of their coal plants and no new gas plants. Those are would be more in line with what I think our Durham County values are, and that we would invest in more homegrown clean energy to create jobs and to help have a more positive impact on the climate. So I just, think it's great that we're taking this action. I frankly am happy to know what an IRP is. I didn't know before this. And so thanks again. And let's hope that they hear us, the commission.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Commissioner Burns?
I'm not gonna be long. I've talked enough. I just want to say thanks to Tobin. She did take some time this week to update us and answer all of our questions that we might have had about it. And I'm all about strengthening partnerships, but the more I have to agree with Commissioner Carter in that this resolution really reflects our values. And I'm just happy that, she was able to say, well, this is what we want to do. This is what other communities want to do. And so often people don't want to do that with utility companies. And so thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for always taking the time with us. And I appreciate you. So.
Yeah, this is great. So again, thank you, Tobin, for bringing this to us. Okay, if no other comments, we're going to move on to a consent agenda. Commissioners, we have 21 items on this agenda. And because there are a few new items, I'd like the manager to read each item. And if there are items to be pulled, we can put them at the end of the agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to start at the very top, obviously, with item 82, which is essentially the appointment of our LEPC, our Local Emergency Planning Committee. Items 85 is essentially a budget ordinance amendment that's appropriating $187,106 in the Register of Deeds office for our automated restricted fund balance, which is a specialized fund balance in the Register of Deeds office for the purposes of executing a contract with Tyler Technologies. Item 91 is a submission of the comments to the Utilities Commission docket that you just heard about regarding the Integrated Resource Plan and the letter that was in fact referred to. Item 0096 is a budget ordinance amendment from Public Health recognizing $877,282 from the Department of Health and Human Services for COVID-19 prevention. Item 97 is another budget ordinance amendment for the Public Health Department. Once again, it's from the Health and Human Services in the amount of $48,935 for our DINE, which is our nutrition education program. Item 98 is a budget ordinance amendment from the Department of Social Services to accept a grant in the amount of $1,244,759.40 for emergency and utility rental assistance.
Mr. Manager, I don't want to pull it, but I just wanted to highlight this as well as another item regarding increased rental assistance coming into our community. And also just really thank our DSS staff who've been doing such an amazing job running programs to help process these applications. And as Commissioner Burns knows, it's complicated. It's not easy. You have to follow the rules. And there's a different set of rules for every program. So I just want to acknowledge our DSS staff and this opportunity for the community.
Item 99 is our standard property tax and release and refund report for the month of January. Item 100 is a budget ordinance amendment recognizing $8,214,809 from the city of Durham for our interlocal agreement to administer our emergency rental assistance program. Item 101 is a budget ordinance amendment from the Health Department to appropriate fund balance in the amount of $125,000 for the jail medical care and amending the jail health contract. Item 104 is a capital project amendment of PAYGO in the amount of $250,000 for Durham Tech for the demolition of a building. Item 108 is to approve the revised Board of Commission appointments. Item 109 is requesting a refund of payment for the excise tax to Bagwell, Hope, and Smith. Item 111 is an increase in the interlocal agreement between the city of Durham and Durham County to provide recycling processing for haul services. Item 112 is a Board of Adjustment annual report. Item 113 is the 2020 Historic Preservation Commission annual report. Item 114 is the 2020 Planning Commission annual report. Item 121 is the board approval to consider allocating economic development funds for ad varium, which you heard at our last meeting.
Mr. Manager, this is Monica. We did have one person that submitted a comment during that 24-hour comment period. If it's okay, I would like to read that now.
By all means, please do, Madam Clerk.
This comment comes from DeWarren Langley. He submitted the comment on Tuesday, February 9th, which was within the 24-hour public comment period. It reads, the Career Pathway Program of the Charles Hamilton Houston Foundation Incorporated would welcome working as a strategic partner with Ad Verum to educate, empower, and equip boys and young men of color for life science and gene therapy production career opportunities by being intentional about engaging, partnering, and supporting our efforts to help them acquire the skills, knowledge, experience, and network needed to succeed in the competitive workforce through our Young Men of Excellence program and Career Pathway program. We understand that there is not enough merely to inform boys and young men of color about opportunities, but to also provide consistent and responsive support to them on their journey to define their goals, develop a strategy, and take the necessary steps towards success. We provide those services and support, which translates into career and economic stability and mobility for boys and young men to serve. Let us continue to expose our boys and young men of color to professional career pathways that will allow them to live successful and meaningful lives with career and economic stability and mobility. That concludes the comment received. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Manager, before you go on from this item, I just want to clarify for the record, because normally we actually vote on this, and I just want to be clear that the briefing sheet will be incorporated into the contract that we all had discussed at our last meeting. Just for the record, thank you.
So do you want to pull this, Commissioner Jacobs?
No, I just want to, just for the record, to state that we all are acknowledging that the briefing sheet will be incorporated into the contract, because it doesn't specifically mention that in the language for this item.
Okay, continue, Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 123 is another budget ordinance amendment recognizing the HAVA reimbursements for our Department of Elections in the amount of $192,290. Item 124 is a capital project amendment for $1.350,000 for PAYGO funds for the creation of the county tax software purchase which is a capital project. Item 126 is a budget ordinance amendment in the amount of $104,125 to contract with Kate's Corner to provide learning centers for the Housing Authority communities. Item 144 is a budget ordinance amendment in the amount of $24,000 being transferred to continue our COVID housing for homeless individuals. Madam Chairman, that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Just for the listening public, just to reiterate that all of these items, we have had an opportunity to either go over during our work session or our agenda comes out on Thursday. So we have an opportunity to get with staff and with the manager to ask questions if there are some concerns that we have. So we're just not passing these things without going over them and making sure that we get the research and get the questions that we need answered. So at this point, I'd like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Alam, second by Commissioner Burns. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs
Yes.
and Chair Howerton.
Passes 5-0. Our next item is our illustrious health director, a forecast on COVID-19. And we'll have our health director update us on responses and efforts. This discussion will be held. There he is right there, Ron Jenkins. You want to take it away?
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Yes.
and to the best Board of County Commissioners in all the land, this side of heaven. Good evening to my county manager, my county attorney, and all the general managers. We certainly greet you, and we thank you so much for all of your support. And it's a pleasure for me to speak to you on behalf of the hardworking, resilient staff that continues to be committed to our recovery and are dedicated to helping us turn the corner in this pandemic response. I come to you with some good news in that our numbers are increasing. I think I said to you maybe about a month ago, what does go up certainly must come down. And we're delighted to let you know that all the indicators from our surveillance work are showing that all the efforts in Durham are paying off as far as mask wearing properly, social distancing, avoiding large gatherings, and just making sure that they continue to wash their hands. So again, that's a bit of good news. We currently sit at 818 active cases, and I think you remember the last time we were in the thousands, about 1,200. So now we're back under 1,000. We're delighted about that. Unfortunately, got a little bit of bad news. Our deaths have increased, unfortunately, and we've increased by about 13 deaths since the last time we met. Our hearts, prayers, and meditation goes to those families who've lost loved ones to COVID. Our individuals who beat COVID, 20,776 individuals who've beat COVID since the pandemic began. Our total was 21,805 total cases of COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic, almost a year ago. Our 7-day moving average is 63, and that's a decrease from 73 last week and 88 the previous week. So it does show that our lab confirmed cases have decreased while North Carolina's lab confirmed cases have certainly stabilized. We're delighted to report that we have made updates to our fabulous data hub And as the announcement mentioned, in addition to surveillance work, there's also a dedicated section for COVID vaccine dashboard information. There's a lot of great information out there. I definitely want to give praise to Dr. Christian Naney and Ms. Marissa Mortarboy, and John Paul Zita, who encompass our data team. They've worked very hard to continue our tradition of being transparent, open, and honest in all that we do with our COVID response. I'd also like to just mention that really quick, not much has changed in terms of our race, ethnicity, and data as far as our percentages. They have all but remained the same. Not much has changed in where COVID is rearing its ugly head in the work settings. Correctional institutions, nursing care facilities, and universities continue to be those areas. Much has changed, however, in our percent of positive labs reported electronically. As you would recall from Secretary Cohen and a lot in the many press briefings, they really want North Carolina as a state to be at 5%. And Durham is close. We're at 5.5%. And this is an increase, a decrease from last week, which was 6.5%. And then there are also some models in which we're fortunate to have Duke's model reported to us on a weekly basis that has Durham at 2.9% growth. So again, we are delighted that those numbers are decreasing, and it's just only going to help us to get closer to turning the corner completely. Let's talk about school-age children. Right now, again, 327 total cases, representing about 16.4% of all of our cases. Again, we're keeping a watchful eye on that. We do know that more time. I do apologize, my commissioners. I gave y'all the wrong thing. 174 total cases, representing 13.45%. I do apologize for that oversight. But we are continuing to keep a watchful eye on school-age children. Now I'll get to some COVID-19 updates. As mentioned many times before, the state is providing us with 3-week iterations of guaranteed doses. And right now, for the next 3 weeks, we are guaranteed to receive 1,170 doses of Pfizer. On a week-to-week basis, we do petition for event allocations. We're not receiving any equity doses, and I'm not necessarily been out of shape for that because Durham is doing exceptionally well, and we're outpacing the state when it comes to demographic utilization. The only demographic that we're lagging behind with the state is the white population, but every other demographic from Asian Pacificer, I think I'm saying that right, to Blacks, to Latinx, we are outpacing the state. And that's just attributed to the diversity that is all but representative of Durham County. However, I would love, I love to give y'all statistics, but I would like to give you a little bit more statistics to kind of bring it home for you. As of right now, we're still currently vaccinating groups 1 and 2. There have been 47,277 doses of vaccine administered in Durham County to Durham County residents. 30,445 Durham residents has received a first dose, which represents 9.76% of Durham County population. 16,832 residents have received a second dose, which accounts for 5.4% of Durham County's population. We have been hard at work, basically getting a number of vaccination sites and vendors who can vaccinate. Of course, most vaccinations have occurred at Duke University Hospital, Duke Regional, and Durham County Department of Public Health. Make no mistake about it, we have encouraged an additional 20 people to 20 vaccinators to become official vaccine providers. And on that COVID vaccination dashboard, all the different vaccination sites are mapped out and it's located for our residents. If you hover over the site, it gives you all the information you need in order to be able to schedule an appointment when it's your turn and your spot to take your shot. Additional information for you again. You know, we're delighted that Walgreens is now in their second week. There are 11 sites, and you know, we're going to continue to petition for more sites to be open. I have heard that in certain states up north, CVS is doing vaccinations. I do know that there are plans for CVS to come on board, but that hasn't been released yet. But we're excited to know that we have more individuals. In terms of demographic and age, we have the majority of our vaccinations occurring in the 65-plus-year-old population, with people who are 69 years of age being the dominant vaccination age at 1,429 individuals. As I said before, and I kind of joke a little bit, but kind of serious, females have outnumbered males in their vaccination by staggering numbers, almost 2 to 1. And as they always do, they're probably going to have to drag us to go get our vaccination. But again, shout out to the girl power that's out there.
Shout out.
Shout out. I will say, you know, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of, you know, I wouldn't say racial equity as far as demographics, but I am most confident that the next group, which is group 3, is really going to open up the demographic sphere of our vaccination. We do know that right now, non-Hispanics have been vaccinated at 97%, while Hispanics have been vaccinated at close to 4%. This is also indicative of the fact that the majority of the workforce who is of the Latinx population are primarily in group 3, and that encompasses our essential workers, and they're also traditionally much younger. So we're encouraged by, you know, this next phase that we're going to effective February 24th. And if I may, Madam Chair, I'll conclude by saying 2 things. We have been hard at work with Durham Public Schools, and we have been working internally with them as far as scheduling them. We have a dynamic plan in place. We beg their patience, but we do have the capacity to, if not meet or exceed our goal of vaccinating approximately 1,000 of them per week. Not to be outdone, we have a nice plan in place for childcare facilities. I've reached out to Executive Director Danielle Johnson with the Partnership for Children in Durham, and she is connecting the dots to make sure that childcare facilities are able to get with our scheduling team. And we also have a plan in place that's coming to fruition for our independent schools, our charter schools, our private schools. We are certainly, you know, looking forward to putting that plan in place. The last thing I'll say to my commissioners is that while we wait for vaccines to become more robust, we're not sitting on our hands. There is a ton of education in the form of roundtables that yours truly has signed up for. I see my county managers, county attorney smiling. I've signed up for just to spread the information, dispel rumors, answer Q&A. That's been the best way. We had a fantastic session with State Senator Murdoch at St. Joseph's AME on Saturday. I also was able to participate in a sickle cell work group, monthly group. There's no shortage of people who want to know more information. And it's also extending itself to the ministerial alliances throughout Durham, just making sure that we're able to capitalize on those education opportunities. And finally, I'd definitely like to plug tomorrow from 7 o'clock to 9 p.m. It's going to be an immigrant and refugee town hall, number 2 of 3. And I'll be on there being able to provide some information. And it's going to be a wonderful event. And again, we certainly we're thankful to the city and the platform to be able to broadcast it both in English, Spanish, and Arabic. And that's how you get the information out. That's how you get things done.
So I think our attorney has a question, but before we go there, I just want to say thank you so much, Rod. And I think we were all waiting for that conversation about what's happening with the schools. Because I've gotten calls, and I'm sure other commissioners have too, about how we're going to make sure that our teachers and all of the administrators around the schools get their shots. So I appreciate you addressing that. Just one question is that I've been asked about the supply. And what I've said to people is we don't have control of how much we get. And is that could you speak on that a little bit, and then we'll go to our attorney.
I have committed myself to doing all that I can for Durham since the beginning of the pandemic, be it more testing and now being more vaccine. I'm sure the state of North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is tired of hearing from me, but I just say, look, I have submitted events requests and I followed the guidelines in terms of collaboration, in terms of having checking the box as far as 65-year-old individuals, historically marginalized. And, as Katie Galbraith has said many times, my great friend, Katie Galbraith from Duke Regional, we have the manpower and the capacity. We just need the vaccine. So to answer your question, Madam Chair, we feel as if we will have the supply at least to vaccinate. I have personally committed, much to the chagrin of my staff, 700, and I'm more than sure that between Duke Regional, Duke University Hospital system, we can get an extra 300. I have taken precautions to make sure that we set aside 700 to be able to take care of this. Not that we're forgetting those individuals who are still in Group 1 and Group 2. We have set aside a day to make sure that we can make up the difference. And we've just been fortunate. The state has called me twice today to ask me, hey, I have an extra 100 doses. Can you take it? Yes, ma'am, we can. And then later on in the afternoon, I got another call. Can you take another 100? I say, yes, ma'am, we can. So, I'm not turning down anything. We will find a way to get it done. Because as you all know, we have to exhaust it the week after we receive it. And we've been successful in doing that thus far.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Attorney Seiler.
I just want to give accolades to Mr. Jenkins. As some of you may know, I missed the training session on Friday. I was getting my second vaccine. And so because the health department was closed on Thursday, there was an unusual number of people present and accounted for on Friday. It was a lot of people. But I want to say this. It was so impressive and so smooth the way that the staff handled all those people. People were so excited about it and the way they were treated so nicely. I think that, honestly, I almost had a good time standing in line waiting because I was in line with some really nice people. I hope I see them again because I really enjoyed just the conversation, and everyone was appreciative of what the health department was doing. And so, as you know, once you get in there, Mr. Jenkins, his desk is back there in the back. So he's got an eye on everything. But between he and his staff, I mean, they run a tight ship. It was so seamless, but outstanding job.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And, again, I don't sit back there in an overseeing position. I just want to be amongst the people. I want to be in the heat of battle, being able to serve, being able to fix anything that goes wrong right on the spot, as opposed to staff having to come and find me. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. And we certainly, you can't be in this business that we're in if you don't have a heart for people. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I did have a question.
So
Madam
other
Chair.
commissioners, Commissioner Burns, go ahead.
I have a question. It's quick. I will point out, Lo, he treated you way better than me because Mr. Jenkins kicked me out. He said, 25 minutes, you are done. Yes, you did. Because I'm out there talking to people. I'm clapping. I'm shaking hands. I'm trying to have fun in there. And are you all right? He said, you are at 20. I stayed about 2 hours last time. Rod kicked me out, but that's okay. I just, I want the people to be happy. But what I want to throw out there, I'm not going to jump on the DPS question. A couple of meetings ago, matter of fact, I think one of our first meetings, you told us, we asked, we said, who is working on the campaign to make folks feel comfortable about taking this vaccine? And we recognize, you and I, we all know that this is not Tuskegee, right? We know that on this call. But I spent all last week, all this weekend, talking to as many teachers as I could at as many high schools as I could. And one of the issues that we have is that there's still uncertainty, not necessarily about the efficacy of this vaccine, but about the safety of it. And for you, and when I sit here and I'm talking to all these teachers and they're, outside of the situation with schools opening, we have that the level of reluctantness and fear is very real and very palatable. So the state was supposed to told you that they were going to run a campaign. That has not happened. There was supposed to be a call center for that vaccine. If the campaign has happened, I haven't seen it. There's supposed to be a call center for that vaccine, for vaccination outreach. They just awarded that RFP maybe last week. I saw you this weekend. Here comes a question, Chairwoman Howard. I saw you sitting at the back in a suit because you had 3 Zooms to do that day. So I'm not trying to put it upon you. And as much as I want to come down there and hold the hands of teachers, I'm afraid you're going to kick me out again. So my question is, what can we do? Or what can we do? I'm going to table that. I want to know, have you heard from the state on whether or not there's going to be some statewide outreach to individuals, to people of color about the safety of this vaccine? We know that there's a significant amount of young African-American teachers in our high schools. And for some who are fearful of going back, and even some who are ripping and roaring and going back, the thought of taking this vaccine is very scary. So where are we at on that campaign?
I will say, thank you for that question, Commissioner Burns. Indeed, there was supposed to be a statewide campaign. There is some semblance of it. They did do a lot of public service announcements. They came to Durham, and stalwarts of Durham like Mickey Michaud and a couple other people were recorded. And I think that has landed on their website. But rest assured, we have a weekly call every Tuesday with the state that gives us an opportunity to ask some questions. And this is certainly going to be a question that my team and I will ask. In the meantime, in between time, we tend not to sit on our laurels and wait for the state. We do whatever we can. So I am proud to say that I've received the information that I need from DPS 7 o'clock tonight to get us started. And the next thing that we can do is just probably, really ping the superintendent and his staff, his wonderful staff, and just ask, what can we do to, build trust, to get more of your staff, more involved. And, if we have to do a town hall ourselves, we can do it. But I will mention to the state, just to ask, what can y'all do? I think, it is my opinion that when we pivoted to this current season we're in with Group 3 phase 1, if you will, not a whole lot of time and effort was made to really lay it out. And, and we're all kind of catching up as we go. But nevertheless, Durham takes care of Durham, and I don't have a problem reaching out to the superintendent, just ask like, hey, is this something that's going to help you all? But I think for right now, they have been surveying, they've been collecting information to help us to get started. And I truly believe that this is something that they're going to want to do sooner rather than later.
Well, thank you. And the only reason why I asked about the state, just so we're aware, it is because I echo Lowell's sentiments. You are out there working 16, 17-hour days. So that was the only reason why I asked whether or not there was was the cavalry ever coming? And if they don't come, you tell Dr. Mubinga, I'll be down there. I can talk to the teachers. I'll tell them I don't have a 10th leg. I don't have two extra thumbs. I did take a very long nap, but I feel like that, you know, Commissioner Lama always talks about the mental health piece of it. We've got to look at that. And I want to be intentional about that, but I also don't want to put more of a burden on you all. And if we have to take that on ourselves, you know, let us know so that we can be supportive. And I'll just end on that, but thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns.
Okay, so we've got Commissioner Lum and Commissioner Jacobs. If we could take no more than 3 minutes each, it'd be great so that we can move along to the next item.
Yeah, and Commissioner Burns gave me a good segue into my question or comment about the mental health. And I know, Dr. Jenkins, I brought this up at my first Board of Health meeting as the new liaison for the commission. I have big shoes to fill with Chair Howerton leaving that board. But one of the things I brought up, and it's still a concern of mine, and I know you talked about it a little bit, but hopefully like the rest of the commissioners to know, if you may already know, but as we go into the budget retreat time, is one of the concerns I have is that, you know, we have a lot of vacancies for school nurses that are still open, that are frozen right now, but are like have been open even before the freeze. They've been vacant for quite some time. And there's been a concern about, like, you know, how do we recruit the best talent? And I think, you know, that needs to be really revisited as we start reopening schools and sending kids back in the middle of a pandemic. And we don't have enough nurses in all of our schools. I'm really concerned about that.
Thank you for raising that, Commissioner Lum, and we warmly welcome you to the Board of Health. You know, we had a great meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we thank you for being there. I think sometimes, you know, when you're on the outside and you're looking at, you know, the job description and everything, you have some reservations, but we've been fortunate, downright blessed, to be able to have some fantastic temp nurses who have joined us. And they've been able to be on the inside to really see and talk to school health nurses. So I foresee us really having a lot of luck in the next couple of weeks in terms of those temp nurses who are fully qualified to be school health nurses to maybe throw their name in the hat and you know, really consider us as their employer of choice. And we continue to do the best that we can to recruit. I do know that there's some nurses out there that have some reservations, but the one thing I will say is that we have a very dynamic human resources department under the leadership of the great Kathy Everett Perry, and we work extremely well together. And I do feel as if our vacancies will be filled in short order.
Well, Rod, you know that my giving up the health department was no easy task. I've been on that board since I was elected in 2008. So giving that up and I know that it's in good hands with Commissioner Alum. And I know that that's one of the things that we've worked on for years is to get as many nurses in our schools as possible. So I know that you will continue to work on that. So thank you. There was another question from Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rod, thank you as always for everything you're doing. And I think your participation in all of these conversations is really, really important. And to, you know, just addressing the important concerns that Commissioner Burns has raised. I think, I know the religious roundtable, a lot of the ministers are really working together. They put together a statement, and they are also working on a lot of getting out and talking to their congregations. And I think using, you know, trusted community partners is, you know, and word of mouth is huge. You know, just people talking about their experiences is important. And I encourage everyone to do the Back on the Bull pledge, which is really being launched right now, where people give their testimony about, you know, that they pledged to get the vaccine, and so I hope that all of us will do that. Rod, about the schools, this is really, really important, and it's so great to hear that between, you know, tomorrow, Wednesday and Saturday, basically, that we're going to be able to get at least 1,000 school employees vaccinated. This is huge, and if we can keep that up for 2 weeks, it means that we could virtually could possibly get all of the Durham Public Schools employees even vaccinated within the next 2 weeks, which I think would really go a long way towards helping alleviate a lot of the anxiety and fear that, you know, a lot of people have right now with, you know, there are a number of people that are going to be going back into the classroom on March 1st. So this will really make a big difference for our community. I really appreciate you and Katie Galbraith from Duke for working together to make this a priority for our community. And again, please let us know any way that we can help. Thank you.
Absolutely. We thank you for that, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't be long. Rod, I honestly don't know how you're doing this. I was not expecting you to say we had 1,000 vaccines, you know, ready and waiting to go into teachers' arms, DPS staff arms. So whatever it is that you did to get us that supply, you know, thank you. And I agree with Commissioner Jacobs that that's going to go a long way in alleviating concerns, I hope, about returning to school. I guess the only other areas related to school concerns might be other mitigation factors that need to be happening within the schools. And I'm sure the school district is working on that. And my guess is they're probably partnering with you and in the health department and getting the input of the local health department experts, the public health experts, to make sure they're able to do everything possible with screening, universal screening, and the PPEs and the ventilation and enough nurses, whatever else the standards are. Is that happening? Do you feel good about that as well?
I do. And thank you so much, Commissioner Carter, for raising the science. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're raising the science. And through, you know, the ABC Collaborative, you know, I have a great colleague, Dr. Ibukina Kambuyo, who's a part of that. And, you know, again, the science is there, and they have laid it out to the point where it's nationally recognized that we can do this without truly vaccinating everyone. So now we have this confluence of vaccine and science. And if they follow the right mitigation methods, you know, we should see outstanding results. But it is my understanding that the ABC Collaborative is continuing to advise the district. And of course, public health is always here. Our nurses are definitely ready in terms of going back. They've all been vaccinated, so they're going with a certain degree of confidence. So I think Durham is going to be positioned for success, and that's all we want: success for our kids.
So thank you again, Rod.
Commissioner Howard, I just want to
Thank
point
you,
out
your team.
he doesn't do it alone. I want to also throw that out
Well,
there because
I was going there with the staff. Okay, go ahead.
Well, not the staff.
Okay.
Because I highlight the staff. I'm talking about the announcement about those 1,000 vaccines was on February 17th. He worked closely with the General Assembly delegation. He worked closely with some of us because we knew how important it was. So it was, when I tell people, it is a collective of people in Durham, from DAE to DPS to the General Assembly. So when the governor made that announcement on the 17th about those 1,000 vaccines, it was a collective effort. And I think the community needs to know that there are people who are consistently working together to make sure that this problem is mended. But that was what I want.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. And thank you, Rod, and all of your staff and nurses and all that are working so hard to get shots in folks' arms. It's an awful, awful important tasks that you have over there. So we thank you tremendously.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, if there are no more comments, we're going to move on to our next item. The next item is 21-0142, and this is a proposal request to support the redevelopment of Durham's historic Hayti district. The board is requested to receive a proposal seeking $50,000 to support efforts toward the redevelopment of the Durham historic Hayti district. And we have Henry McCoy on the line to share his request with the board. And the city has signed on board to for this project as well. And we are really excited about the work that Henry is doing at Hayti. Commissioner Lom mentioned that area earlier, and we are excited that, Henry, that you're taking this on, and we want to hear more about it.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair and Commissioner Burns and Alum and Carter and County Manager Davis and all the great staff of the county. Appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to you today. And as you, funny when Commissioner Alum was mentioning, I was thinking that, like when Kevin Dick said that Commissioner Burns should be on his panel, I'm thinking that maybe she should make the pitch. I mean, it was kind of so smooth in terms of, what the Hayti community has meant for Durham and what it still needs to mean for Durham. And it's really certainly something that's important for the entire United States and beyond. It was a model for equity and inclusion. And so, right now it's really about thinking about, what do we do for the community? So on one level, we do think back to, all the promises that were made and that were not kept in terms of the Hayti community, but we also think about going forward and what does that mean? Hayti is quickly experiencing some level of gentrification right now. We see the pressures that are going on over there. And I want to start and move quickly to your questions, but a couple of years ago, the Keenan Charitable Trust invited a group of us to go to Louisville to witness some of the investments they were making in Louisville in the community. And a group of us went to Louisville and saw the kind of investment that Keenan was making. And Keenan came back and said that they were very interested in figuring out how they can make similar investments here in the Durham community, but there needed to be a vision around that. Around that same time, I had spent a whole lot of time with the community members of Hayti talking about, everything from the Fayetteville Street corridor, the Fayette Place, and overall community. And what came out of that really was this idea that, that the community really wanted something that helped to really catalyze the community to become something, beyond, obviously housing is important, but beyond that, right? Something that catalyzes the community from an economic development standpoint, and that the children in the community could see opportunity, that it could lift the families up, that it could tie into all these kind of things that are important. And so over the last year or so, a group of us, including, really it's been centered around the community, have come together and talked about, well, what does that look like? And Keenan has been a part of that. The Durham Housing Authority has been a part of that. Organizations like Student U and Monument of Faith Church and others from the community have been a part of this conversation. And so where this came about is that as part of this conversation was happening around what can Hayti be, and what does community want it to be, and how can it really catalyze the community? Of course, we've seen this kind of, in some ways, national and in other ways, global reckoning with race and the tension that's come from that. And so what has kind of taken place as a result of that is that we've certainly seen tremendous amount of resources that are saying that they really are about trying to address racial inequity. However, what we have seen, and this is one of the documents that I shared with County Manager Davis and and Chairwoman Howerton was in places like, for example, Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was probably the place that was most closely aligned with Durham's HATI, is that we've seen this kind of discovery of what happened there, and we see this drive for example, to build tourism around this idea of what was historic Black Wall Street. And so there's all these resources that are going to that community, along with was the Greenwood section of Tulsa, which was a Black community, Black Wall Street, building up. But as you can kind of guess, the sad punchline of that is that, of course, none of that is being owned by the community. All of the development, the retail space, the developers, all that investment is really driven by the white community. And my fear and our fear as a community is that that same thing can happen in the Haiti community if we're not careful. If we're not very intentional about this idea of putting the power in the hands of the people in the community, if we're not very intentional about this idea of how do you do redevelopment without gentrification, without forced displacement, which is really what Keenan is very interested in from a standpoint of saying, how do you create economic opportunity? How do you create economic mobility without actually displacing people from the community? And even more than that, we know that if you ride up the Fayetteville Street corridor, you know that development is happening. It's coming from kind of both sides of Fayetteville Road and from downtown. And if we're not careful, then it's going to engulf what we know to be the historic Haiti, and people in the community are going to be spectators until they're pushed out. And so this effort really is a way to look at, how can we really get the community ready for investment that allows the community to be a part of the planning, to be a part of the construction, be a part of the owning and operating of this community, as a economic catalyst. And so this particular request ties into a partnership. And I want to be clear that this is, even though I'm here and everybody knows, I'm at NCCU and I lead the entrepreneurship program, this really is a community project. And it's really about the community. And I've partnered with United Way and others around this idea of looking at how do we get the community ready for investment, and how do we avoid these things like we're seeing in Tulsa. But at the same time, we really have to move quickly because that kind of gentrification power is really pushing forward. And so this project looks at bringing the community together in a way that really looks at that catalytic vision that they want to put forth. How do you actually also making sure that you're compensating the community for their time around here? How do you tie into the assets that are the community? And one of the things that I mentioned in the letter, we're also looking at how do we bring additional resources to bear from outside. Folks like, again, Keenan Charitable Trust, which is already put resources in here, and very interested to see what the community comes up with, what they like. There's also a pretty large grant, around $20 million that the community is going after, called a Racial Equity Challenge, which is tied to the Kellogg Foundation. And so it's really about that creation of that autonomous power that the community really needs in order to build the confidence to, as the investments come in, that they're able to take part in the investments, able to create businesses and really create that foundational wealth that was stripped away when the highway went through. And my bigger vision or hope is that as a part of this Haiti redevelopment and inclusion and making sure folks have that ownership, and that young people are taught not only to, when they look around their neighborhood, they don't see just poverty and despair, but they see opportunity of how they can lift the community up. But I really love to see Durham held up as a model for this, right? I get a chance to work in a lot of places around the country and some around the world, and I always come back and say this to anybody that asks, of all the places I go and all the places that talk about wanting to be equitable and inclusive and all these things, the one place that I believe that really can lead that and be that is Durham. And so I'm hoping that the county can come on board along with Keenan and the city and support this effort as we try to revitalize and what we kind of call Haiti Reborn. And for any questions you have related to this request, thank you.
Well, Mr. McCoy, we are so pleased to have you tonight and to talk about Hayti and this project that you're taking on. And we know the city and the county both know that $50,000 is not a whole lot of money to get the project going. We know that this is just to show that we are in support of to the other institutions that are supporting you. So I'm really excited about this project, and I want to give the other commissioners an opportunity to, they have questions or concerns. And we moved pretty quickly with this, commissioners, because even the city moved fast with theirs. They haven't even had their work session yet. But this is one of those things that we needed to have back to be approved if we are going to support it by the 25th. Is that correct, Henry?
Yeah, and let me say, just I really appreciate the speed by which, and I know having been in government myself, things don't really work this fast. So I appreciate the chairwoman and the county manager. Part of this came about, as we were working as a team, as I mentioned, United Way and DHA and some others, and Keenan. I actually received a comment. I actually received a phone call saying that this effort was going on where Kellogg was having this kind of global challenge, looking for ideas that could help to address systematic racism and be used as models. And I thought, and the call really said, well, we think what you're looking at doing in Durham could be something that really fits well with this. Of course, again, it's a challenge, it's a competition, and it certainly helps to have the community leaders behind you. And so as as we kind of work through this, and it happened very quickly, going into January, certainly, again, under normal circumstances, we have a bit more time, but wanted to be able to show. And so anyway, the Kellogg Foundation put out a due date of February 25th. And so that became kind of part of the idea of how do we get that kind of commitment to submit along with the Kellogg application, to say that not only do we have the community partners at the table, we have a vision for how this can work. We have some philanthropic partners, but we also have the the city and county at the table as well. And so again, I appreciate that the quickness by which you all moved on this. I think it may be unprecedented.
We won't admit it. Okay. Commissioners, are there questions or concerns?
Mine is very quick.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Burns, and then
I just want to, it was Netta that gave all those wonderful comments about Hayti in the beginning. So I don't want to take the fame away from my sister and do that. But what I will say, it did come up quickly. And you all, I mean, you in past meetings, I'm always like, wait a minute, what is this request? Where is it coming from? I've been known as a penny pincher, but I did get the opportunity to talk to Mr. McCoy. And a lot of times when you are seeking funding, what they really want to know is how much does your community support the work that you're doing. And for me, I'm just happy that, we have these opportunities to build up the community that the city and the county both feel very passionate about. That's what our community needs to see. And that is what the world needs to see. And I hope that this is a step in the right direction, and that we can work on more projects together. And Mr. McCoy, thank you for bringing this to us and having a vision, because sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth. There are a lot of things, I think if you would ask anybody on here, that we could all say, gosh, how can we remedy the things that are happening in Hayti? How can we remedy some of the things that are happening in Rougemont or Bahama? But then to have, citizens to come forth with a concerted effort and a plan, a real plan, it means a lot. So thank you for taking on this mantle outside of your other work and actually bringing together very respectable partners, i.e. United Way, i.e. North Carolina Central University, and the other organizations that are here. And it makes us feel better about how we spend residents' money. So I won't be bothering you with questions because I bothered you all last week.
Thank you. And just to say, so, I mean, I think, I think this conversation that you've had tonight has been clearly a foundation of what the need is. And again, going back to your point, I mean, Commissioner Alam, my testament around her was the fact that she did such a good job of setting up the framing that that I should take her on the road with me, because I mean, it was just a perfect teed up, and so I appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, other questions, concerns? Commissioner Jacobs and then Commissioner Carter.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. McCoy, for bringing this to us. And I really am so grateful for you. Really, this whole concept of Hayti Reborn is very exciting. And just the wealth of experience that you have from literally working all over the country. I know whenever I talk to you, you're like coming back from wherever, California or whatever, all the places that you are doing very innovative work. So to be able to bring all the things that you're doing all over the country back to Durham is really important. But as you said, we really can see what's happening. There's an urgency to this. You can see the creep from downtown Durham now. It has literally come now across the Durham Freeway, and it is starting to move into Hayti. So I do think the time is really right, especially with also looking at Fayette Place, the 22-acre site that is up for redevelopment. There's just tremendous possibility to do it right. None of us have ever gotten it right. And so if you can figure out how to do it right, and everyone, can get together and figure this out, it would be fantastic. I love the idea that you're tapping into young people with the schools and students at NCCU. I mean, I would even say Durham Tech is another asset there, and Student U. And I just want to acknowledge, the county has invested a lot already in this corridor. We've invested in renovating the Whitted School, which is now, of course, it's a pre-K and senior housing. We've invested in renovating W.G. Pearson, which is beautiful, and now the home of Student U and a lot of nonprofits. Sanford L. Warren Library, we are continually investing in that. So there are a lot of assets to build upon, a lot of historic assets. And I would want to mention something that you and I worked on, which was the light rail together. And, we've discussed recently, as last night, that, the commuter rail is another important asset that possibly may have a station, that could be within this corridor. And so again, for you all to be involved with that and to be at the table with that, even when, studies are going on, is another important thing. So I hope you'll get involved with that as well. But thank you so much. And just my only question is, will we get any reports or updates to learn about the progress and what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for the comments, and it's great talking to you last night. And as I mentioned last night, one of the great things is that part of this is really in terms of talking to different funders and different investors is talking about the scale of the opportunity, but also the fact that Durham, again, can really serve as a model, because this is a challenge that's happening all over, right? And so to your point about working with young people, so, Student U's an incredible, partner with 550 kids and Durham Public Schools and things of that nature. But if we're going to really address racial inequity, I mean, it's got to start with not only training current leaders, but also the future leaders and also educating them. So that's a key part of, how the families and children benefit from this. As relates to thinking about this idea of the potential for the commuter rail and things of that nature, part of the navigation really has been this idea of how do we talk about in these proposals Durham as its own unique hub of equity and kind of being ahead of the curve, but not forget that we live in one of the kind of great regions of in the world, right? And making that connection between the two, that even though we're talking about investments here, that lends itself to other opportunities beyond, you know, RTP and our neighboring communities. And so I think that is a incredible opportunity to spread that, as well as the kind of investments that you already made. Part of what I've been doing is, kind of coalescing these narratives, right? These kind of equity artifacts, as you may say, that says, well, hey, the community has already been making investments into aspects of this, and if we can come together and really come up with this vision, we can show how, together between the kind of commitment that we have here locally and other funders who really want to show that when you pull together folks, you can do this. So I think that narrative around, what you've done along the corridor is such a critical, aspect of this. County Manager Davis has always been a great resource as well in terms of having those conversations about this community and those investments and opportunities. To your question, absolutely, in terms of updates. And so what we would love to do is have kind of a regular kind of opportunity to come together and come before the community and the board and talk about these, kind of what's going on and how it's happening, and bring you up to date on progress. I mean, we're really trying to move, as you say, as John Wooden would say, quick but not in a hurry to try to get things together. And to the kind of Haiti Reborn, for those who remember my speech to Death of Durham, it kind of speaks to this idea that we can have a rebirth, and I fully believe that we have the leadership, we have the commitment, we have the hopefully the imagination. Because one of the important things in my mind is that we have the imagination to think big about our all communities here, right? We should not put limited expectations on certain parts of the community and feel like other parts can, sky's the limit. And so this is part of that, building that confidence from both the community itself and folks looking into it, that you can dream big things for community. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you.
Mr. McCoy, we got two more commissioners, I think, want to say something quickly. I don't think this is a hard sale tonight. I think we are going to move quickly, commissioners, because you've got another item that's going to take another 30 minutes. So let's get to where we need to get to with this one.
I just wanted to express my thanks to Dr. McCoy, for your just long-standing leadership and commitment to projects to help build wealth in Black communities, Black, brown communities, and in particular to increase, economic equality and keep the money in the Hayti district, how to invest without leading to gentrification. Sometimes it feels like the opposite of gentrification can be disinvestment, but how do we invest and make sure the money stays there and continues to empower the people there? And hopefully we'll begin to repair some of the damage from the past. So you seem to have a knack for attracting money. Good luck with the, is it the Kellogg Foundation? Good luck with that. And I look forward to just following the progress of this exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. I appreciate that very much.
Commissioner Long.
Chair Howerton, I will be very quick. Don't you worry. I just wanted to also thank Mr. McCoy so much for coming and bringing this to us and allowing the county to be a part of this. It's definitely something that's long overdue, but as you mentioned, it has moved quickly through the process now. And I do think it's worthy to know, just to toot our board's horn, that, it took a board of all 5 women to get it done, and we got it done quickly. So I'm really glad to be a small part of something as amazing like this. Thank you so much for giving us.
Thank you, Commissioner Lyle. Look, I have 4 sisters, and I was the power of women. You don't have to sell me on that. I totally get that. So I'm very thankful to this board for your investment and belief, and I think we can do great things here, as our motto Durham says.
So commissioners, we have a request to receive this proposal and take action tonight. If there are no more questions, we'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion that the board move forward with a request seeking a $50,000 investment from the Durham County to support efforts toward the redevelopment of Durham's historic Hayti district.
Thank you. And we have a second.
I second.
Commissioner Alam is the second. And the clerk will take a verbal vote, please.
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
and Chair Howerton.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is a 2020-21 fiscal update. The board is requested to receive an update on projected expenditures for 2021. Our general manager, Claudia Hager, will lead the discussion. We also have Susan Tizet and our CFO, along with Keith Lane, a budget director, and Kathy Everett Perry, our HR director, on this item.
Good evening. I will start the presentation. This is a continuation of a conversation we've had with the board about our fiscal operations. And Monica, you can advance to the next slide, please. We'll do a quick recap as a reminder of what we've talked about. And tonight we'll focus on just a couple of items. One, the board asked that we'd come back and share on outstanding expenditures that we're projecting this year as it relates to COVID or other expenses. Also to share information about the mid-year salary review as well as differential hazardous pay. And then we'll talk about next steps, and you can go to the next slide. Just some reminders, when we started this budget year, we had overall limited budget growth in projecting. We froze positions April of last year, and we tried to make sure that we were very judicious in how we managed our expenditure growth. We set aside dollars to assist with COVID-related expenses of about $4.5 million. And over the past 7 months, we have exhausted those dollars. We also set aside a $4.2 million allocation from lapsed salaries to help offset if issues arose due to revenue shortfalls or COVID-related expenses. This was a practice that many jurisdictions across the country employed as they tried to determine the best way to proceed with this unprecedented fiscal situation. Overall, increased fiscal analysis and the mid-year review was a part of what we shared with the board. When we developed the budget, we just weren't sure what we were going to face. And we said, okay, let's come back mid-year, see what's happening. And the good thing is that we're in a much better place than where we thought we were going to be last year this time. The sky truly was falling around the world. And we did as best we could in trying to brace ourselves for it. And we're one of those fortunate communities that are in a place that has leveled off in some parts of the economy. Many are still suffering, but for the overall government revenue and expenditure picture, we right now have managed within our means. And I can go to the next slide, please. This slide may be a little small, but it has a lot of information up here. I will say that, you know, we've delved deep into the details with many of our expenses over the last 8 months as we've tried to manage COVID, because some have been expenses that we've never seen track at the pace that they have. If you look at this list, you'll see some items that we have talked about recently, and some were on the agendas tonight, and some that will come before you in upcoming weeks or months. As we've managed this pandemic, we've had some increases that are specifically related to COVID. And then we have some items that, as we developed the budget, we decided to put on pause before we funded them, and with the mid-year look. And then we had some items, such as one that we'll talk about related to an economic development payment, that we said we would use fund reserves to pay for once that time came. So in looking at this list, you will see items that we've discussed in previous conversations, to security equipment and temporary personnel that's related to general services. There are dollars that are also that we're seeing with cleaning costs that are exponentially higher than what we've seen in years past. Tomorrow during our budget retreat, we will talk about cleaning expenses. And there's also an agenda item that we'll discuss during the work session that will also talk about those expenses in the next work session in March. There are some other placeholders that we've identified for potential allocations for learning centers for the fourth quarter. We know there is some discussions about school openings. We also know that there may be some situations where the learning centers may still be a need. So this was something that we had put on as a placeholder, and the dollars we would look at as we get closer to a refined number. Another item that is a major cost is one related to our public health. And there's a call center infrastructure that's needed to help us with vaccinations, as well as the vaccination management solutions. Those are two separate things. And those are two items too that we'll talk about tomorrow at the retreat. But as you can imagine, the infrastructure needs that communities across the country are navigating with trying to vaccinate its residents. And while we're focused right now on the phase 1 and phase 2, as that list gets longer, there has to be that infrastructure in place for seamless management. There's some smaller items also on the list. There's an allocation of cooperative extension to assist with the food security. We added a position at the beginning of the year, and we needed to also give additional dollars for operating expenses. Two additional items are related to our youth home and costs for funding out of county beds, as well as dollars for mental health counseling. You'll see a larger dollar item that's related to the economic development extension payment. This is a planned expense, excuse me. When we have economic development incentives, we manage these incentives with a timeline, and once an entity meets that date, we have to do the payment for that incentive. And so for this year in the budget development process, timing wise, we had some that were going to meet the deadline, but in fact have. And so those are dollars that we had planned for as far as an expense. And then this last one, the Rescue and Recovery Task Force allocation. This is a shared cost between the city and the county. And this will also be discussed at the next work session in March. And then there are some additional items that are to be determined. And those are areas that we have talked about. Food security is one that is of large concern, as well as housing security. We have dollars allocated for housing security up through April, and there is additional vetting on what those numbers are so that we aren't underestimating those. So in looking at strategy and how do we fund these activities, there are a few ways that we can do them, and some of these we've always been able to do. So if a department, for instance, of general services in the past had some expenses, they could have used some of their dollars within their budget to move them around to cover that cost. With COVID, because costs have tracked higher in certain areas when there have not been dollars from grants to offset it, it's caused those normal places to not be available. And so this will show a preliminary list right now of unbudgeted needs with some places that we will continue to flesh out and bring out to the board. Again, it's a number that we watch carefully. And the good thing is that we do have the capacity to address these areas within the dollars we had set aside at the beginning of the fiscal year, when we knew back last year this time just about that there would be some unknowns or revenue shortfalls. We shared with the board that the our revenue and expenditure outlook is in a good position. We talked about those at the last two meetings. Also in the pre-meeting materials, there's also a more detailed update on the expenditures and revenues that was done by the budget department. Monica, we can.
Claudia, before you leave that slide, I just had a question. It's Wendy. The items related to food security and housing, not just the homeless population, but rental assistance as well. Are we going to be discussing just the kind of potential ongoing community needs related to COVID at the budget retreat? Will we get into some of those numbers over the next day and a half?
So for the COVID, for the housing, as well as the for food security, those are not specifically items that we would talk about. And part of it is that we know we can come back to the board to discuss them further. It's also, we know there are some additional federal dollars that are potentially coming beyond what we know that are already in place. I will say that for some of these categories, such as food security and housing, those are ones that we look incrementally in smaller periods of time. Right now, I know for some of our contracts for food, for housing, we are covered through April, early May, and I may have some of my dates wrong, and my colleagues can correct me on that. However, if you look at the amount that you see expended right now, we still have the capacity based on what we spent up to this point to cover those. So for instance, last fiscal year, we've spent about almost $2 million in our housing security. And so we know with us being in the third quarter, we have enough availability to address what may come up beyond what's already budgeted. So, but we wanted to come back to you with the number that we are pretty confident with. And so that that's one that we will bring to you either in March or in April.
Okay, I think it would also be helpful to know what the need is, not just what we've spent, but also just what the need is out in the community. And I mean, I know I just shared a document from the DSS director that was just staggering, saying, you know, that we don't know, but it could be anywhere between $40 and $60 million needed in rental assistance. But it would be also just to know, what does the landscape look like from all the food security team? What are they seeing as the ongoing food security needs? And, you know, I was trying to find out from Kevin Dick today, but just even looking at what is the need of our small businesses, and even, you know, job training for those who are unemployed to connect them to the Back to the Bull, back on the Back to Work initiative, or getting them into the jobs that we are incentivizing in RTP. So I think I would find it very helpful to, when we're looking at, you know, what we could be facing with budget requests, to even have some idea of what the scale is of the types of needs that we have in the community. I know they won't be exact by any means, but certainly the folks that are out there doing the work could have some help us with some picture. I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, Monica, we can go to the next slide. And the good thing is that this is a continuing conversation. And during the retreat tomorrow, we will also be able to have a list that we can work on and bring back to the board. So that's also important for us to remember. When we established the budget in July, there were some areas related to salaries that were basically put on hold. The manager recommended that we would look at salaries at the middle of the year after we see what the fiscal outlook looked like. We brought forth the recommendation in the last conversation of potentially allowing a benefit that would allow for 3 weeks of leave that did not expire. And this is a practice that has been done by several jurisdictions as a way to help compensate for employees' time. It does not accrue to sick time, nor does it expire. And it doesn't, it's not a liability on the general ledger. So it's not like vacation time. And so I know that there were some questions about that. The board also asked us during the last conversation to clarify what would be the cost if a 1% they asked if a cost of living adjustment occurred. So we're presenting that information for whether it's an annual expense of 1% or at 2% cost of living adjustment. And those numbers are there with the reoccurring expense at 1% at $1.45 million. And if it were to occur at a 2% level, it would be $2.9 million. And the other amounts with it happening at the beginning of January. And Monica, you can advance to the next slide. We showed this slide before, showed the number of employees impacted by COVID, and we can move to the next slide. And this last slide shows the various scenarios related to differential pay. We did show the first 2 bullets during the last conversation, which was a reinstatement of the differential pay, which totaled $2.6 million plus benefits for 6 months. That's based on the previous trends. and it would be eligible for FEMA reimbursement up to 75%. And for this number estimated, it is the number of employees impacted were about 1,800. So if an employee came in once a week, they worked 3 hours, they would be eligible if they fell into a certain category. And then we showed a scenario of it at 5%, which would be 1.3 million. And the board also asked us to evaluate if a differential happened for individuals of certain job classifications, those being those frontline workers that were face-to-face. And some examples when we were talking about then were those who were in the EMS or in the healthcare setting, some of those in our law enforcement, detention, public safety officers. And so in looking at that, and again, this is part-time and full-time employees, we're seeing that we're estimating that about 1.9 million. And so although it's a lower number, but still not as low as some may have thought, it's because many of these individuals, such as public health or EMS or detention officers, they're the ones who are in the trenches every day. And so those are the 3 different options related to those categories. And I think I have one more slide, Monica. And so as far as next steps, as I continue to say, we will keep evaluating our expenditures and seeing where we are, looking at those positions that we have delayed, and is it because of where we are fiscally, which ones we do move forward with. We did share some information about the vacancies and the impacts there. Just continued operational analysis and assessments. Keith will wow you tomorrow with where we are with needs. And so although we see a glimmer of hope and we're in a good place compared to where we thought we were going to be last year this time, it's still from a revenue outlook, not enough money. So we just continue to make sure that we're being judicious with dollars being spent. And so the last bullet is that, we'll keep updating the board. These conversations have been good, although I know we've had them more than we normally do, but we just want to keep you updated, and we'll work through those places that we're not as clear about. And we know the complexities, especially of COVID, is forever.
Come on and join us.
Is forever changing, and we just try and Lord, we
can hear you.
That's okay. But we will try to just keep you posted and respond as fast as we can, but also as accurate as possible. So those are my comments, and we'll entertain questions from the board.
So thank you so much, Claudia, for your excellent work, and you and your staff. These are, even though we've seen it before, it's always good for us to see it again. And I know we'll talk about it tomorrow and Wednesday as well. Are there any questions tonight from the board? Or you want to hold your questions for tomorrow? Go ahead, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Claudia, and Mr. Manager and the budget team. And I know the budget team is going to put the fear of God in us tomorrow, as usual, every year. Claudia, you said they would wow us. I know they will. Claudia, I appreciate having this financial update. It kind of makes sense in a way, in the same way that we're doing the public health update at every meeting. Kind of lines right up with that. And I really am grateful to see the cost of living adjustment numbers that we asked for last time. And one thing I don't understand for sure is differential pay, is that the same thing as hazard pay? I mean, are they used interchangeably?
If they're used interchangeably,
Okay.
yeah, and it's because the way our policy is written prior to the pandemic, we have terms of differential and we have terms of it's primarily differential. But
So
yeah,
there's the differential pay, which is the same as hazard pay.
that is correct. Yes. Yes.
And then there's overtime pay, right?
Mhm.
Another category.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't quite understand still. I know you some last time about how the 3-week leave does not have a fiscal impact. Can you help me understand that a little better?
Sure. And I'll explain it, and then I'll have Susan to T-side to hop on as well. So from a fiscal impact perspective, when leave is at the end of the year, when we have to account for the accrued time that we have, such as vacation pay, we have to book that leave as a liability. So if a person has 240 hours of vacation time, we are liable for that. We have to pay them out when they leave. That's a liability. And so for sick time, or for this type of leave, if an individual were to leave the organization, we would not have to pay them out for it. However, the time that they worked in the office, we of course would pay for that in a different kind of way, but it would not be a cash out payment or something from an accounting perspective. When you're looking at what are your liabilities, it would not be an additional expense in that way, because if that were the case, we would it would be millions of dollars that would then increase our liability. And Susan, I've tried to explain it in layman's terms, and
Thank you.
but I may have messed it up. So Susan, tell me if I did.
That's true. So with accrued vacation, you see that as a liability on the balance sheet because, like Claudia said, if I leave with 30 hours of accrued vacation, you're obligated to pay out that accrued vacation because it's time earned. Sick time is a benefit that is not on your balance sheet, and that's because we're under no obligation to pay it out. If I left the county with 2,000 hours of sick leave, you will not pay me out. Anything for vacation that's on the accrued payroll in the bucket, that's saying, so if I go past the amount that I can earn in the year, then what's over that top amount converts to sick leave. So when the bullet says this different bucket will not convert to sick leave, that means it is not going to increase their retirement, which will be an additional cost to the county. So by putting a separate bucket of 3 weeks and it doesn't expire, you're giving them a benefit that doesn't have a monetary liability on the county. So just like if I'm sick today, that sick leave is not on my books. It's in the bucket in the HR master data, but it's not on the books because there's no liability. So if I'm out sick today, I record 8 hours or 7.5 hours of sick, and you pay me just like you would if I was there working, because the sick leave is a benefit.
Gotcha.
So this vacation would work that same way.
Okay. Well, listening to both of you, that is helpful. As far as officially, like operationally, could you imagine any sort of situation where you might have to hire a substitute, because someone's taken the extra leave, and then that would be an expense? I guess that's what I was thinking, that it could have that sort of impact.
Mm-hmm. And what from that standpoint, if they need to be here because of tasks that they need to do, then the vacation will not be approved by the supervisor. I feel sure that because the job has to get done. And I'm sure departments do cross training for backup and those types of things.
Right. So I could also imagine a lot of cases where people might have vacation, they just can't take it right now because of the dire straits that we are finding ourselves in. Thank you. That's helpful.
Could I just throw also in there really quickly? The state and the federal government do this all the time. And I just want to impress upon our commissioners, since this is, and this is not a knock to anybody, since this is like the third or fourth time we've gone over this and they've expressed it. Again, this is a common practice, you know, and again, this is not toward anybody. This is not the county saying, give us 3 weeks of vacation. Whenever, I mean, I can't think how many times the state has done this. Whenever they can give a 1.5% raise or a 2% raise, they'll give 2 or 3 weeks of this special leave, and you can't take it. And again, like they've pointed out, and one, I'm not going to over explain it because that would be disrespectful to Susan and Claudia, because I think they did an awesome job explaining it. But I would also, I'm just respectfully asking, please trust them as professional that this is a common practice that people do from the top to the bottom. And it is probably one of the most cost-efficient ways that we can move up. You know, I have said from the beginning how I feel about them. You know, everybody wants to buy a house, so they want to go to the register of deeds. Everybody wants a vaccination, right? Well, there's a significant portion of people want vaccinations. I almost feel like, and I say this as respectfully as I can, if the county employees could net votes for some people, we would not be having this conversation. I mean, because it's just, it makes, I'm struggling with it that they're working 12, 14, 15, 20, you know, hour days and answering our questions. And we continue to go over this and go over this and go over this. So I do hope that at some point we can come to a resolution. She's pointed out, you know, a lot of this, I'm fiscally responsible about it. And I want to make sure that whatever it is that we do it, and FEMA can at least reimburse us 75%. So we can tell just from this PowerPoint presentation that the 5% option is probably not an option for us because we won't be reimbursed for it. And they put all these steps in place. They didn't hire people that they needed. They did not take raises. They continued to do the work. I mean, they've been doing this for over a year with no help or no additional help. And they've been working with temps. And now we are about to open our schools earlier than what some of us thought would be possible because we want to do it in August. And we're entertaining ideas about how do we award a whole nother set of people. And we have not even talked about doing it here. And I'm not indifferent to that happening, but I also just want us to be very conscientious of the message that we are sending to the community about who we value and how we value them. And I'm not sitting here trying to be, you know, I'm champion of all state employees. I am champion for labor because I am that labor and I know that work. And again, that is not a knock to anybody. But again, I'm hopeful that as we go through these present, you know, we were talking about how we never get updated. I'm hopeful that as we continue to go through update after update after update, we're not getting updates on everything else. You know, when I just had questions about possible payments for things, you know, I was criticized. And so I'm not going to criticize anybody here for getting further clarification, but there are certain projects this board gives money to without question. We cannot sit here every single solitary week and praise the staff, because 99% of what we do, if we look at the videos, all five of us agree on 99% of the same stuff. We really seriously do. And 99% of the time, the only thing we are really saying at county commission meetings is something to, not even to admonish them, but to praise them. So how can we sit here and praise them week after week after week and not reward them? So that is essentially, you know, my argument. I do have some questions about this presentation. There's some numbers on here I would love to pick apart. And just my quick yes or no, this Rescue and Recovery Task Force is rescue and recovery and not renewal, correct? Claudia?
It's renewal recovery.
That's what I thought. So let's fix that typo right, because nobody picked up on that. That was something that threw me off. It's the Renewal and Recovery Task Force. And while I'm not going to waste time doing this meeting, just know I will be calling you tomorrow because I want to know what we spent $75,325 on. But I'm not going to do that here. So we can do it for pet projects. And I'm not saying that to be offensive because I know that those folks have done great work. No,
Commissioner Burns, it's going to be on the work session as well.
I know. It's just tonight, nobody ever asked questions about it. And so I'm going to stop there. It's just certain people are treated a certain way in this county. And I'm hopeful that we can come to some resolution about treating everybody equitably. And that is not an issue of race or class. It is an issue of labor.
Are there any other questions or concerns? I know that I see Commissioner alums and anyone else. We've got 9:40. So are there long questions or comments, or which? Can
I have
you,
one question.
just a quick question?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've said from day one around this whole thing of acknowledging our staff and patting them on the back is, what are we willing to do?
I had a
Yeah, go
question
ahead.
of clarification. And I hear you, Commissioner Burns. I'm not trying to knock any of the staff or discredit any of their work. I just wanted to get an understanding regarding the mid-year salary review, the options for consideration. The cost of living adjustment, is that going to be applied to all staff, or is that like looking at staff at certain AMI levels?
It would be applied to all staff.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jacobs.
And what I'm going to say to you, Chair Howerton, is I'm going to hold all my questions for the budget retreat.
Thank
So
you.
we will continue the conversation over the next day and a half, and I will wait until then.
Thank you so much. Given that we're going to go over it again tomorrow, I think that's an excellent idea. So, so if we move on, thank you so much, all of the staff, Claudia, for your excellent report. I think the next thing that we have is appointments, board appointments. I'm trying to get back to my agenda here. Yeah, board and commissioner appointments are next.
Give me just a minute, Chair.
Okay.
For the Board of Health, you could select 2 individuals, 1 physician and 1 pharmacist. You selected Mary Braithwaite as the physician and Jean Rhea as the pharmacist. For the Memorial Stadium Authority, you can select 1 person, and you've selected Yvonne Coleman. That concludes the results of your voting.
Thank you so much. We have a closed session tonight.
And Chair Howerton, please remember that I sent you an additional item to add.
We have an additional item. Let's see if I can go back to my email. You sent it in the email?
I think it was texted to you.
Was text? Okay. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, so there's no number here on this one. There's no number on this one, Lowell.
Monica, can you help her out?
What you text me, there's no number here.
You mean of the statute?
Yeah.
Am I
So will it be under the same statute?
Yes, but a certain number.
Am I allowed to read the statutes for her, or does she have to read them?
You can.
Okay, so I can go ahead and read the closed sessions, Chair Howerton, if that's okay?
Yes, because I only have one statute. I didn't get the other one.
Okay, the board is requested to adjourn to closed session for the following. The first is to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual, public officer, or employee pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6. The second item is to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. The General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Okay, we are.
No, you need a
got
motion.
I need a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Chair, I motion.
And a second.
I
Second.
second.
It's been moved and properly second to go into closed session. Roll call.
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
Chair Howerton.
Aye. It passes 5-0. We're into closed session. I'll leave this one.
All right, Commissioner Howard, oh, she can't hear me yet. Chair Howerton, are you able to hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, perfect. If we can go ahead and get a motion to close the meeting.
Commissioners met in closed session. No action was taken. I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
and Chair Howerton.
Aye. We are adjourned.